Ask me about my wiener.
Oh,
You ready?
bring us in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Big Sleep Podcast. What have you been up to?
Not much. Online school.
Nice. Yeah, I had a interview with the dean at Creighton, and I think I'm gonna back out.
Yeah.
Just got a lot of stuff going on right now.
Well, I'm doing that one I was telling you about, and I sat down for 3 hours, blew through an entire class, and tested out.
Nice.
So, if I can do that for this, I have 26 weeks.
Yeah,
And if I finish all my classes for this semester, I can add ones for next semester and just keep
yeah.
going. And I don't have to pay the tuition for it.
Word. I wish I would have grabbed something to drink. Rookie move,
I've been so thirsty, man. I think
dude. I think it's been dry out.
that too. Well, I used to have to get tested for diabetes twice a year
That base.
because it runs in my family, but I never had like an inkling of it or whatever. And then every time I say, "Yeah, I'm really thirsty," and my doctor's like, "Uh oh," and I'm like, "Really? I don't have diabetes. I think I'm thirsty all the time."
I'm terrible at drinking water.
So am I.
Like, I remember every time we go to the field, I wouldn't even have water with me.
Well, I'm not gonna drink out of a 200-degree canteen that's been in 500 people's mouths and they've used it as spitters for 10 years.
I don't even think it's about the canteen. You remember where was that? It was in Kansas. No, it was in Missouri.
You gonna talk about the
When that
fluoride
dude, yeah, that dude was like, oh, bleach, just straight
bleach?
bleach. Yeah, and he was like, water's good. I tested it, and it's like, with what credentials you tarred, and then
You remember it was
and then
foaming?
yeah, the Air Force came in and tested it, and they're like, no one drank this, right? And we're all just like,
Oh, yeah, it was supposed
what?
to be like, I don't know what it is, 1 to 3 parts per million
Yeah.
bleach, or less than that, I'm sure, but it was like 12.
It was like wash, rinse, wash, and like they never washed again. Like it was just bleach. Yeah. And the thing is, like, we were all in like hazmat suits, so we were having to down an exponential amount of water, and that was like the only source of water. It was like poisoning the well.
And then the time after that, when we went out in the field for that same thing, I opened up the Gatorade like 15-gallon water jugs and there was dead mice
Yeah,
in there.
I believe that.
It's like the people who work there didn't do their job.
I believe that too. Man, this mic's picking up everything again.
You're
NVIDIA
good on
broadcast.
my end.
Oh well. Yeah, those were bad times. And dude, it was my boss. Remember, it was that freaking dude, the same one that brought the laptop into your work and like lost his mind when you worked at Best Buy.
This was before that.
Yeah, yeah.
This was your other fucking douche boss.
I've had a lot of those.
Honestly,
It's
I don't know which one's worse. And that's saying something coming from me with the second one.
I'm trying to think of which one. I don't know. Yeah, they're both. I mean, I've had a lot of bad bosses, so I don't know. It's no wonder that I've turned out so great.
Said no one ever.
uh, do you see Trudeau? Did you listen to his trade war speech
Which one? He's been talking
and
about it
his
for like 3 weeks.
oh man, I wish we could pull it up. Like that would be nice to pull it up if we could. But he goes on like he goes hard in this, saying like trade war, Donald, like yeah,
Whatever
not
happened to him stepping down?
Mr. President. I think that's it. That could be part of it. Is that like this is his like peace out, degaff, like don't care, long hair don't care.
Yeah.
They said they're gonna launch retaliatory trade tariffs.
Well,
So
that's
we'll
what we're
see.
already doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I thought too. Like Canada already had tariffs on us before like
yeah, it's like
this.
sixty
So
percent steel,
yeah,
uh, however, like 100% lumber, 100% or 250% eggs. So it's like, okay, we slap you with tariffs, and you're retaliating against our retaliation. I mean, whatever. They can put whatever tariffs on us they want. If we put tariffs on them, their economy will collapse. So
right.
I guess I don't know. And we also signed like a deal where if you retaliate against the tariffs that we impose, you get hit with a bigger tariff. So, you do you, boo boo.
Yeah, it was like a I don't know. It was a very heated speech of his, and I don't know. Like I feel like things have not been very professional lately in the political world, and yeah, this one I was just like, man, this is embarrassing. Like, I
Yeah.
can't think of anyone that like hates Canada. That they're just out there like, oh man, I hate Canada. Like Canada's beautiful, and like,
Well, Canada
but
surely hates us. Have you seen like the last 5 sporting events?
no, I just saw the one. I watched the hockey game, but like,
They did
or
it
the
for
both. I watched
hockey.
both
They did
hockey
it
games.
like an MMA fight. Like
Oh
if the
really?
national anthem is being played, they're screaming.
Huh? I don't know. I mean, you know what the funny thing is? Like, I can go like a long amount of time without even thinking about Canada. Like, I forget about Canada. Like, imagine being forgettable.
Well, the world economy is forgettable too for them.
Like, yeah, it's just gonna suck not being America, man. Like, America's awesome. You been playing any games?
I started playing 7 Days to Die again on the Steam Deck,
Nice.
and what else? I played Songs of Six, and that's about it.
Man, I was eyeballing that Monster Hunter Wilds. It looks so good.
It's got some mixed reviews. Is that just because of optimization or what?
I think so. Optimization and like they're pretty much forcing a lot of oh god, what's it called? Like TAA, TSAA, like FSR, stuff like that. Like they're optimizing with all those, like frame gen.
Well, I mean, that's the path when all of the new cards coming out are focusing on that.
I mean, either way, I think it looks like a good game.
People are saying it's
I don't
too
know.
easy.
Maybe. Like the game hasn't even been out that long though.
Hmm.
Yeah, it came out February 27th. I don't know. Either way, the problem is it's another one of those games where it's probably really fun with a group of friends, but tales old as time. We never have enough people to play like one game. So like I'm not even gonna like waste my breath. Just like WoW, where it's just like me and you grinding, and then like a couple other people might consider jumping in, and like they don't. So
Yeah, we're getting old. Oh, I have been playing Armored Reforger,
dang,
and speaking of community, holy fuck, dude! I'm not too complaining about stuff, but that is
yeah,
like it is Modern Warfare 2 chat lobby.
really, that's good sometimes though.
It's the cringiest thing I've ever. It's like a bunch of dudes that are like 17 and they're like, "Hey, bro, what the fuck, bro?" Like,
Yeah, that's how BattleBit was. Like,
see, BattleBit wasn't that bad for me.
oh man, for me, like I was just getting bagged by kids.
And then it's like super just southern racist people as well. Like it's
Hell
like
yeah,
NATO
brother.
versus Russia, and they're like, "Get the fuck out of here, you Russian piece of shit!" And they're like,
Hell
"Can you just push the point?
yeah,
Like, can we play the fucking game, please?"
that's funny. I've been playing Pokemon Rumble lately.
Yeah, I
Like,
watched your
man,
videos.
that game chills me out. Like, it's super arcadey,
You want to
like
talk about
laid
Lanier?
back.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I like it though because I'm just like, I could like close one eye and play it.
Yeah,
Honestly, it almost plays itself. Maybe that's what I need. Is one of those tap tap games. I'm just gonna go to iPad games from now on.
adventure capitalist or whatever. You just click.
It's like an RPG, but it runs for you,
Yeah,
like all
idle.
those Android games. Yeah, that's the future. Why play games when it'll play games for you?
Um. Oh, I think we had a little discussion the other day about the Zelensky talk, and I said I was glad it was in the media and stated my point, and you said
Oh,
no, and you never backed that statement up. So let's hear it. I would like you to justify
my God, that's I
your
like go back.
opinion.
I like how you're gonna paraphrase like the way that it went, and like I could pull it up. I'm sure. What I said was it was embarrassing. Like, like I think that it was embarrassing for our country the way that the president and Vance acted. Like, it didn't make us look like a stronger country by any means. It wasn't. It wasn't like a Southern draw George Bush moment where like he looked like he had hay outside of his mouth or something, or like you mess with Texas, you mess with the United States. It was Donald Trump saying like, I don't know, it just it looked weak, man. I didn't like it.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you to quantify it.
That is my quantification. It looked weak. Like I think,
And how so?
I do like that he backed like the sweater thing. Like I thought that was super lame. Like the reporter being like, "Why aren't you wearing a tuxedo?" And then when Trump was like, "Dude doesn't have to wear a tuxedo," you know. I was like, "Good, like that's true."
Yeah, but have
If
you seen how the
I
leftists frame that?
if I was a president of a country, then like I would not be wearing a tuxedo. Like if we're at war, like I would be wearing some military complex stuff. Be like, no, like we're at war. I will wear this until we are not at war.
Yeah. Well, and all of the headlines right now are like, "Can you believe what they did to Zelensky?" Talking about him wearing a tux, blah blah blah, and they clip out the
Oh
part
yeah,
where Trump says that, and there's no
I believe that.
they make it sound like that was Trump and Vance saying that,
Yeah,
and no mention at all
of
about
them
anything.
defending it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think. I mean, I think that Vance was just outspoken. It looked like I don't know, man. It looked like a child, and I think it was also super embarrassing whenever Zelensky was like, "Have you seen like what's going on over there?" And then Vance is like, "Uh, uh, I've seen the videos," and it's like, bro, like to me that makes like Zelensky look more powerful than Vance because it's like, nah, dude, you've got the guy who's been there, and then you got the guy who's like, "Oh, I saw the videos."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say that I was less impressed with Vance than anybody else, but I still think, I mean, I will qualify my opinions on it. I think it is good.
Are you saying I didn't? Hold on, wait, what?
You still haven't you said it doesn't look professional, but like, and I can get behind the Vance thing, but like, how does it make us look weak, and how is it embarrassing specifically? Not just saying it's embarrassing and makes us look weak. Like
It's just
what
the way
about
they
it?
carried themselves, like the way that they portrayed it. Like it wasn't the way that they talked was not professional. It looked like they had intent for that meeting to spill over. Period.
Oh,
And
yeah,
instead of,
I don't agree with that. See,
I mean, but instead of like them, like either a mediating it or just being like, "Hey, you need to leave," it became this like pissing match, man.
yeah, but and I think that's part of the reason why I'm glad that it was on the media. Is I do agree, and I think you can attest to this too. Like that area of the world, and not just that area of the world, but like there's cultures that are very brazen and to the point and interrupting and like hard headed on things. And I tried explaining
Yeah,
this the other day. It's like, that's not bad. It comes across as rude to American, like United States citizens because we don't, well, we also behave like that, but I'm saying public speaking and diplomacy and stuff like that, that's not how we talk. Um, but like that is the norm elsewhere. Japan, Slavic countries, you know, Eastern European countries. They're very like, you're ugly, but it's not rude. It's just like, oh, I'm saying this because I observed it or whatever. And Zelensky is very much like that. You know, you'll be 3 words into your sentence, and if he disagrees with something in those first 3 words, he just starts spouting off and doesn't listen. And again, that seems bad to us, but that's normal for their culture. But when I watched it live, all of the responses that Trump had was like the things that I was thinking, like, wow, this is XYZ. And then he said it. You know what I mean? And one of those was, hey, like, I'm glad this is on the media because you can see how hard it is to make a deal with this, you know, way of speaking or this ego. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, people should recognize that because even Biden complained about it. You know, love or hate the guy, but Biden was getting phone calls, or his staff was getting screamed at by Zelensky. And I'm sure Trump's staff has too. And it's good to see, like, this is how they operate. And I can't imagine even doing like direct business to business sales with some of these like international clients when that's how they talk and behave. Like, I couldn't imagine being on the sales force trying to close a deal with that type of mentality, let alone international diplomacy.
yeah, but his like interview with whoever, like right after that, was fine.
See, I disagree there too. I don't think it was fine because Zelensky's doing this thing where he's on the fence about what his statement is. Like, he'll be like, "Of course I appreciate the American people, but we need their support. Like, we need better support from them." Like, he
The
it's
offensive statement
tongue
was
in
that the
cheek.
war would come to us.
he also did say that, yeah, but I'm saying aside from that, when he did an interview on Fox, he's like, no, I will not apologize. And America needs to do better to support us. And I'm
Uh,
like, no, we don't.
dude, like we dicked them down like hard, like
We dicked
post
Ukraine
Cold
down.
War. Yeah, like post Cold War, like we stripped them. Like they were about to have an arsenal and be able to defend themselves from their neighbor, and we were like, oh, we'll deconflict it, and removed all of that
Okay.
and
And
left them
what?
open to get like bowload
Yeah.
in
And
2014 and again.
right. What country did we not do that to?
I mean, the only two countries that are two of the three countries that have tried to have nuclear weapons
Right.
lately.
So, in other words, all of them that were trying to do that. If you want to talk about getting dick down, and we can get into the, and I'm not saying you're going to say this, but this whole Russian propaganda bullshit, I'm so tired of listening to it. There are facts on both sides, and it is important to highlight the facts of both sides. And the major dicking that we did was post World War II, post USSR relations with Russia, where we had 13 NATO countries, and we all agreed that NATO would not expand to the east to Russia's
Yeah.
western border. And then in a course of a few years, we're up to over 30 countries. And then we take in, all of a sudden, we're talking about, yeah, Ukraine and Georgia. Maybe we'll allow them in, which is like the entirety of the southwest border of Russia.
Yeah.
So post World War II up into the 90s, even Clinton is like having talks and kind of egging on Putin about them potentially being in like a treaty or like a missile agreement or whatever. And then Clinton goes to like one NATO meeting and pulls the rug out from Russia. Like, no, we're not going to do that. And then they expand NATO all the way up to their border. I'm like, can you imagine if this is the other way around? Also, Russia was just trying to get a military base in a third country that they were going to lease a deal with to get land for a base there. And all of a sudden, there was like this big uproar, and then that's when the whole Georgia conflict thing happened. But what if it was the other way around, dog?
I mean, it is kind of with Cuba and like some of Mexico stuff, like the money that they're feeding to Mexico to like fund terrorism.
Like we do?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like they do it too. So
Right, right. But that's my point. But if Russia decided to put a military base in Mexico, we would be at war tomorrow. Tomorrow. But we can extend our reach hundreds, thousands and thousands of miles right up to their border. And Russia's been sitting on their hands for decades. And all of a sudden we're like, oh,
yeah,
Russia,
but
what are they doing?
this mineral deal will just like subvertedly do that as well. Like we think we're just gonna send DOE there or someone else. Like, oh, it's not DOD, so we're good. We're gonna send people in to go get these minerals though.
Right.
It
But if
it'd be
they're
like someone annexing part of my property to like drive through for logging and me being like, I don't know, like yeah, of course I set traps, man. Like I don't know how those got there. Like
well, in Germany accepted like 100% of its imports for fuel from Russia.
I mean, it's yeah, they should though. Like it's Europe.
Right.
It's location based.
So I guess what I'm getting at is the United States has no place to be dabbling our fingers in everything that NATO does. And we're not the end all be all of being like, hey, random country, we want you to be in NATO. So let's start the process without any recourse for how that might affect Europe.
Right. I think that, I mean, honestly, the one thing that we could agree on is like the biggest benefit is it's going the way that it should now. Europe is helping Europe. Like England saying that they're going to put boots on ground, France saying they're going to put boots on ground. Like good. Like go take care of your stuff. Like I'm tired of paying for it. Like I've said it before, like I don't care about Ukraine. Like I'm not Ukrainian. I've never been to Ukraine. Like I just don't. I have nothing that doesn't. There's nothing that me or anyone I know like benefit from donating to Ukraine right now. But there's people that's their back door, right?
Yeah, but how do you feel when Zelensky talks directly to you with that opinion and says, you're going to feel the effects, your children are going to die in our war? And that's why they want NATO, is they're like, once we're in NATO, they're going to be sending their kids over here and they're going to be dying. Like he said that.
I think it is about worthless too. But like, I mean, he could say you could say whatever you want. It's kind of like grasping for straws whenever you're losing a war, right? We've also pushed propaganda about them winning the war, you know, for the last few years, and they're very obviously not.
Yeah, I mean, my end theory is, in my opinion, Zelensky's a fucking cuck.
I mean, yeah,
And
he's
I don't
always
give
been
a
a
shit.
monster.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about him. Uh, that whole country has been corrupt for decades,
Right.
ever since independence, as a matter of fact. And I mean, Zelensky, I think it's ironic that Zelensky is in show business, doing shows in Russia where Putin's in attendance, and he's directly talking to Putin from the stage about debt deals and whatever. Like, there was a lot of good faith things that went down in the past, and I don't know, something doesn't seem right. And then it's obviously the Ukrainian government was not happy about Zelensky's interview, and his own aide, who's sitting there
Yeah.
shaking her head when he's talking. But they called for impeachment within 24 hours of him being at that interview. So
Yeah.
I don't think he speaks for Ukraine. And they're on the front lines. First of all, a lot of Ukraine's fighting force are like mercenary volunteers, you know, whatever. And they're just like, well, we're just tired of fighting, you know, we're holding the line. Um, but the Ukrainian ones are like, we want another country to come here and just defend our border so we can be done. And it's like, you know what? I get, I feel for you. That sucks. But it's not anyone else's job to come into your country and defend your border.
I mean, ask your neighbor. That's my like, go ask Poland.
Right. Well,
You know.
especially if you're not in NATO, and really they should not be in NATO. We shouldn't be as far east as we are anyway. If 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 Russia or any of the red countries agree to stay where they are, and we agree to stay where we are, there is no reason for conflict unless one of those parties moves the line in the sand.
I mean, ultimately, Putin said that he wants a lot of that area back, though. It wasn't
Yeah.
just like
He
when he kicked off the
specifically said,
Ukraine, he said it. He said that ultimately, like based on history and like Prussia and everything else,
mm-hmm.
like he was like, it's not just this area we want. Like we want the whole motherland back. He's like,
No,
but this
he
area
said the
was
exact.
specific to what he wanted.
Yeah, he did talk about specific areas of Ukraine, especially the communities that identified as Russian. Like the citizen population decided that they wanted to be a part of Russia. There was already an agreement, a signed agreement about all of this, but he said the exact opposite about all the other lands. because that would also include Poland and all these other places. He says he has no interest in Poland. He has no interest in any of the other northwestern areas. It was this area where they had had talks and there was already an agreement made.
Yeah, but he also said like it was going to end at this city, and then it was going to end at the next city.
When did he say
He
that?
wants all of Ukraine. Like it was step by step. Like as this war's gone on.
Oh, I guess I haven't seen that, um, but I do think history is important.
Yeah, but just because you have history somewhere, that means you could just annex something.
No, but if you have history somewhere and written and verbal agreements when you come together and talk about that as countries, and then a third party that had nothing to do with that talk or agreement comes in and says, I'm the US, you're not going to do this, you're going to do this, is asinine. Let them have their own diplomacy. If they want, if they're an independent state, they can practice their own diplomacy. Zelensky's made it very clear that he is not interested in engaging in diplomacy. So, again, my second favorite statement of that entire interview was if you aren't going to go for peace, then we're out and you guys can just fight it out. And I 100% agree with that. If you're not ready to make a diplomatic decision, why are we there? Why is
Because
America
we're a
even
world
talking to them?
power, and I
But
feel
being
like
a
to
world
say that
power,
I feel like to say that like we can't be mediators, and it is based on history. Like if that's the case, then like we could roll it back to, like I said, Prussia, France, England, and Germanic Kingdom. I feel like the Germanic Kingdom's entitled to quite a bit of land, maybe at that point. Like like they should just go back and reclaim everything, all the way down to Turkey. Honestly,
well, that would
like work
include
their way to the
Ukraine.
border. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, let's just bring back OG Germany. We'll do it with the alt right group, and just go. We'll just push through everything. They're
Yeah.
entitled to it.
Well, again, let's say that was their decision. That's that's their diplomatic decision. Like world being a world power is not a free pass to completely intervene. So if you're saying we both need to mediate, which is what I think you said, right? Like
Yeah,
we can mediate.
absolutely.
Okay. So there's a conflict there because is it mediating if two countries come to an agreement and then we come in and reverse that agreement? Would you consider that mediating?
But they didn't have an agreement, obviously, because Ukraine or Russia claims that there were Ukrainians that wanted to, be owned by Russia, or there was like partial land there, and that they were facing a civil war movement, and that their government was made of mafia, mobsters, and thugs, and then Ukraine was claiming that they did not want any part of Russia. They wanted to keep the Crimea.
Well, and then secondly, on the mediation, um, what do we do? And this is a good example of like general mediation. If we are mediating and this is our proxy war, and I decline any statement that would disregard that, like this is a pseudo proxy war for whether that be
Yeah,
NATO specifically or US specifically. This is a game of chess and we decided to play it in Ukraine. But if we're mediating
sure.
and one of the parties does not want to accept any of our advice or mediator services, isn't the option to be like, we're out then?
I don't know. I think it's bigger than that. I mean, ultimately, Russia is spending troops and assets right now, whereas we are just spending money and assets via this proxy war. So, like, if it is a war and we're involved, we're currently winning by a
Well, I,
lot.
I would argue that money is a much bigger force multiplier than bodies.
I mean, it's going to be your GDP is your biggest force multiplier.
So money.
I, I mean, not just in the form of like dollars, like your product in general, planes,
Yeah, but if we're
everything else.
spending $400 billion on them, like these guys can buy whatever the fuck they want. There's a reason that they're holding the line now, and it's because of all of the shit that we've been sending them. AA, whatever. But at what point? See, and that's the thing is we're not only mediating, we have skin in the game, and we're sending money. And if the country does not want to accept our mediating support, something's got to stop. There's no reason if someone's not going to accept a mediator, why would we continue to send money and support? Like, what's the end? Where do you pull out? That's where I'm at with it.
Uh,
We can't
I
say,
mean,
oh,
again,
okay,
I don't care about Ukraine, so like, but it wouldn't bother me if tomorrow they were like, hey, there's no more Ukraine, like Russia's like pushed all the way up to Poland. But then what? Now Russia borders a NATO country,
by our own doing though, because NATO
right?
is essentially bordering Russia anyway right now.
I mean, sure, but I'm just saying, it's not gonna bother me either way. Like I don't care about Ukraine at all.
Okay, so with that statement, if you don't care about Ukraine at all, then why are you okay with us sending them billions of dollars?
No, I said that from the beginning.
Yeah, so we should just be out. Can we agree on
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Regardless of being a world power, we need to stop sending the money and stop trying to make agreements.
I think that we should still mediate. Oh gosh, it's kind of like backing out of like a deal. You don't back out of a deal all at once. Like you slowly back out of a deal, so you don't seem brazen. Like I think like the theater, like you still have to perform.
Well, and I think that's a prime example of how we operate versus the countries that I spoke about before. Because it's not uncommon for Slavic nations to act like that, or Japan, or China, or any of those other places where they're just like, no, we're not interested. And then they walk away and it's over. And they may not even agree to do a deal with you that's not even related to that deal. They just might be, you are done forever now, and we're not going to accept anything from you. But I don't know. The key takeaways I have is I'm glad people were able to see that it's going to be near impossible to make a deal with either of these groups. I don't think we should be sending our money. And if they don't accept some type of ceasefire or deal, then we should not have anything to do with them because it's a waste
Yeah,
of our time. It's enduring freedom all over again. Like, why are we there? There's no winning. You can't ask anybody, hey, what does victory look like over here in the Middle East? And no one can answer you because what is victory? You know,
democracy.
right? But what that I don't understand the victory in Ukraine either. They want to be independent. They said outright that U.S. isn't going to make a deal for us, and we're not going to accept any deals made or whatever. It's, okay, then you have strong independence. You've stated that point that you want your independence and you want to make your own decisions as a country. Well, part of that entails taking responsibility for your diplomacy. And if you get fucking boo food from 3 different war fronts and you get taken over, that's your decision. That's part of being independent.
I mean, they didn't have the option to be independent once, like you said it yourself. Once we started moving closer to them, it was either get sucked up by Russia or become NATO.
Right. But my
So they never
argument,
had independence.
my argument is it's either they never would have had independence by our doing, That would be our fault because
Right.
we're the ones moving towards them, or they are independent and they would not have our support. And I'm going to tell you, I don't think they want either one of those.
So if they don't have our support, then they just get absolved by or absorbed by Russia entirely.
But that would happen either way. That's what I'm saying. If they want to be independent and they don't want to be in NATO, they could just say, hey, we're not interested in being in NATO. No one is going to force a country to join NATO.
Right.
Right. And if you want to be independent, if you go to war, you're going to get destroyed. But that's part of the responsibility of being an independent nation.
I just feel like we did this to them and now we have no responsibility to mediate it.
Honestly, I don't personally agree with the notion that we did this to them. Um, I don't think we should have ever asked them to be in NATO, but us asking them or talking about possibly joining NATO is not uh, Ukraine's to Ukraine's detriment. Like Ukraine could have easily just been like, "No, we don't want to be in NATO." Wipe your hands, walk away.
I mean, but they're not in NATO.
Right, but when you have 20 years of talks of joining NATO, and then all of a sudden you have fucking robotic Biden that's freezing because he has no clue what day it is, and he's like, "You should join NATO," and then Kamala Harris, who doesn't know a thing about diplomacy, is saying, "We want to offer Ukraine to be in NATO. We're going to get them into NATO," and she's like being this bullhorn spokesperson about it. That's when it becomes a problem.
So we moved NATO all the way up to their front door,
Mm-hmm.
in which Russia probably, I'm not entirely sure, automatically started putting pressure on their border anyway. I I
Which who
I
wouldn't?
mean, just naturally, right?
Yeah.
In which it forces the decision of like, hey, I am a sovereign country, but like I have to make a decision.
Yeah, but it's not ultimatum decision. That's I think that's far different than pick a side or die. They don't Ukraine did not have to say we're interested in NATO. None of the countries did. There is no force of being enjoined with NATO. That's my point. There's plenty of countries that are still on the western side of Europe that refuse to become part of NATO, and that's perfectly fine. You know, like you had these smaller Danish communities or like Finland and all these other places where they're like, nah, we're not joining NATO. World War II happens and Germany's like coming onto their land or whatever, and then the US shows up and defends them, or somebody shows up and defends them or whatever. But they're not NATO. Ukraine
Right.
could have done the same thing. I would say it'd be more likely that the Eastern Front would be less likely to join NATO than the Western. You think the people closer to the West that are surrounded by more NATO countries would join NATO, but it's not the case. We're expanding eastward to all these countries that you think would be less likely to join NATO, and they're just hell yeah, brother. Like Georgia, Georgia's so far over there. It it's almost nonsensical to say, hey, we're gonna take Georgia and Ukraine and add them to NATO when now we're starting to get to Russia, North Korea, like in this kind of wedge in between them. And it's obvious, North Korea is now in the war, uh, fratriciting a bunch of Spetsnaz troops because there's no communication between them. They're decimating like entire platoons of Russian special forces because they're confused and they don't know what's going on. But I can say that I can be both unhappy that there was even talks about Ukraine becoming a part of NATO, and the fact that NATO had the ability, or Ukraine had the ability to make a decision for how independent they are and how much they talk. And I'm specifically referring to Zelensky. You can't be standing on a soapbox saying that you're independent and you're not going to accept mediated deals and you're not going to accept XYZ ceasefires, and then on the same breath turn and be like, you're going to feel it. Your sons and daughters are going to die in the war. You need to be more supportive and send us more money. And if we join NATO, like your troops are going to come and take care of this problem for us. Like that's a duality with so much conflict that there is a level of humor in the fact that he's stating these things with such conviction that it highlights how much of a fucking moron he is.
I'd have to see the part where he said like if he joins NATO, then our troops would do it. But like I I do agree that I mean there's an ocean between us. Like we would not be the first ones there, in my opinion. Like if we are, that's a real problem. And then anything based off of World War II, I think like Russia did the most for World War II. Like
Bro, I was
Russia
telling
did
we
way
there's
more than any other fucking country.
they lost millions, okay? And again, I don't want to sit here and listen to Russian propaganda, whatever. Dude, the reason that there was a multi-front war is because Russia was pounding ass on the other side of Germany, and they
Yeah.
were getting slaughtered, like
Hmm.
destroyed. And to say that that didn't happen is crazy to me. Like they were paramount to the victory. I'm not saying Germany would have won, but it could have potentially went on for another 10 or 15 years for all we know. You know, hindsight's 2020, but um and that's when the talks between Russia and the allied forces started having this like better camaraderie and talking about like a missile, or kind of like an arms treaty and all this other stuff. And then when we're just ripping the rug out from Russia and then expanding NATO, it's like too much happened in a short period of time. And by short period of time, I mean, I'm talking 60 years, but like that's a short period of time coming out of a world war.
I mean, the Cold War ended in 92, 91, 92,
I mean,
or 89,
ended. Yeah.
91. I danced around it.
I'll try sending the video. But it's Zelensky back in his country talking about it, saying we're talking about NATO here, and they'll come over and they'll be the ones to die. Essentially,
I
that's
mean,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
maybe. Can't be me.
Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I think is the life lesson here.
Bringing it back around to our original topic, Zelensky can be wrong in the way that he acted in the Oval Office. He can get escorted out, but then also simultaneously, Trump could be, you know, a bit of a prick, and Vance might not have acted very professionally.
I'll jump on board with the Vance not acting professionally. He obviously seemed butthurt about it. I don't think that Trump did anything that I would jump out at me. Um,
I just feel like I mean, there's a difference of like instilling yourself over and over again, like don't tell us what to do, this and that. Like there's a difference of that and just being like, hey, like ceasefire. We need to reconvene. Like we're obviously not having effective communication.
yeah, so Do you agree that because and I'm not saying there's points that I don't agree with Zelensky. Like Russia doesn't have a great history with Ukraine specifically about following through with ceasefire agreements. But in that same note, the president that you had during that time, which also was the year before Zelensky got in there, was Obama, and the level of support that we were giving them then was literally sheets, bed sheets, and I do believe that Russia would not have broken that. Not that it's relevant, but I feel like Trump making a ceasefire deal is a lot different than Obama or Biden making a ceasefire deal and expecting Russia to uphold it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like,
Sure. I again, like for what goes on there, like I'm 2014 all over again. Like when they took Crimea, like I do not care.
yeah,
That does not affect me.
yeah.
I mean, should we be putting money towards it over there at all? No. Are we part of the talks for mediation? Yes, because I think that we stoked the flames of this fire, so
Yeah.
like we need to deconflict it.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, if we wanted to say this is a pure money thing, uh, what I think happened was we sent this billions of dollars to Ukraine. Trump wants
Mm-hmm.
to get some of that money back, so he tries making a mineral deal with Zelensky with the hope that we could get a ceasefire, and that gets our foot in the door for natural resources in Ukraine to get a little bit of payment back for the money that we've sent. And Zelensky made it clear that he's not interested in a ceasefire, so everybody got pissed off because now we're not getting our money back. It would be not a good idea to make a mineral deal if they're not going to have a ceasefire and there's about to be a war there anyway. And so now everyone's pissed off. Like we're not getting our money back. Zelensky's not getting his fucking candy and gets to watch his tablet. So he's crying too. And Russia's essentially like, fuck NATO.
Yeah, I mean they're not going to let us go in there to get those minerals.
Well, I'm not even 100% sure if I believe that Ukraine would let us. I don't know if they're really in good faith wanting to sign a deal with us. I think they're
Yeah,
just fronting a lot of things in the hopes that we fight this war for them. And I'm not interested in fighting a war for them.
yeah, either financially or
Right.
in theater. Yeah,
And those two things are
physical.
synonymous to me.
I don't know. I feel like we can print money.
Well, we sure are.
Yeah,
Well, we printed 60% of our money just in the time that Biden was president.
I mean Trump raising the old deficit again.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't agree with that either.
What a guy.
4 trillion.
Thought he was saving us money.
Yeah. Well, honestly, at this point, it's unlikely that any money savings is going to help much anyway. And if it's true that he raised the debt ceiling so that we don't default, I can kind of get behind that, but I still don't think that's being fiscally responsible.
I just want to know where all the money's going from that he's saving, or where it's going to go.
Well, the idea was to pay off the debt.
Yeah, but instead it'll just be a Republican U.S. aid.
Yeah, I sure hope not. USAID was bad news anyway, though, man.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like it just depends which side owns at that time, right?
Yeah.
Republicans will
I mean,
stand something up. And
that's another huge argument for me is listening to these people complain about US aid and like they'll shit on, and I agree with this. See, here's the deal. I don't have a two-pronged belief system that have conflict with each other, but you'll hear all of these like liberal media outlets complaining that we shut down USAID and now we can't help all these countries that need our help and blah blah blah. But those same people will argue about like the Humane Society commercials to help dogs because it's lining the CEO's pocket, or don't shop at Goodwill because they pay all of their executives a bunch of money and all this other shit. And it's like, you understand that's how USAID operates, right? You can do 2% good or 10% good things like sending food to places that actually need it and not all this other wasteful stuff, or Goodwill, you know, giving to charity, or making a cost effective option for low income people, or Humane Society housing, sheltering, feeding, adopting out animals and all this stuff. But if 90% of what they do is shit and you're going to complain about that stateside, well, if USAID is doing 10% good and 90% shit, how are you not also pissed at that? Like, if it's 90% corrupt, where's the argument here?
I think that just no matter what, like those companies should not be free from audit, and they should be, well, they should also be like fully transparent. Any tax paying citizen should be able to look at a federal program and almost see where every single dime goes.
There's a bill introduced for that.
I'm I'm just saying, like, I think yeah, I think the people deserve to know where their money goes.
Yeah.
But I also think that like U.S. politics is archaic. Electing representatives is an old system. I can guarantee that there isn't a single senator in Nebraska that has voiced an opinion lately that is shared by people. Like, they don't know. What are we going to write them a letter? Like,
Yeah.
no, we elected them based off of like some balloon of imaginary politics that they tell us, and then uh, they essentially go from there to the Senate and then get to preach whatever the fuck they want. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the U.S. political system is fucking a garbage can, man. Like the
I
fact
mean,
that we can't independently vote on things now, when we have like things that are as amazing as computers in our palms. Like, yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't think everything should be popular vote. Um, and I don't agree with how things are right now, but I do think that elected positions are necessary, because you have to have representatives and representation from your state in Washington. But the problem is that you're more successful if you have money to run for those positions, and also people don't have the know with all to recognize when your representative is not representing you and getting someone else in there. If
well,
these senators
it's
were
because they're
worried,
financial. Yeah,
yeah, but if these senators were worried about losing their seat, then they would be more representative of the state that they are working for,
and
because that's what
Nebraska
the people
senators
want.
don't make that much, honestly. Like, yeah, they don't make a whole lot of money. My thing is like it should be like ranked choice or popular vote at the senator level. Like, we're talking about pods of people that should absolutely be like that should be a popular vote at that level. Like, maybe not whenever you incorporate like a city and a rural area, but if you're talking about, I don't know, Sarpy Saunders or something like that, then like Sarpy should be represented and should have like a popular vote system.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that state senate selection is more of a popular vote than the presidency because
Right.
our districts are smaller. And as far as population goes, like, I think that it's pretty reasonable how it is now at the state level. I think states should have more independence from federal level, but again, I don't know. Like, I don't like our Senate, but you
Uh,
never see anyone
Look,
else in the ballot.
look at this for example. So Alt in ethanol company out in Mead, right? Stands up. I want to say the original guy that owned it was like a script writer for Biden, and big money goes big places. They stand up an ethanol company. Ethanol company uses pesticide seed corn, right, instead of just like regular seed corn, because the pesticides, whenever they're processing things, they end up with a mash on the other end of it that still has pesticides involved with it. I mean, they're still getting their ethanol alcohol that
Mm-hmm.
they're going to use for who cares what fuel, the fake fuel, cleaning things, whatever. And they can what's it called with chemicals when you can like purify it essentially, or like clarify it to the best of their ability. But they don't care about the mash. The mash can have dog shit in it. They don't care. And so they take the mash and just they were spreading it out in the fields nearby. They're like, it's mash. It's good for the crops. And instead, bees 100 miles away are dying, and like uh what's it called, Lincoln, oh god, what's their UNL, like one of the professors there is like, I don't know, this is an anomaly. Like suddenly all like I just lost 10-15 hives of bees like overnight. And then they start testing groundwater, everything else. So how come an area like that, which has a senator, has one, I don't know, a percentage of a vote of things that should happen in areas like that? Like an LB goes up to the state's going to vote on something, and that senator has one moment to speak in front of everyone, where it's like that pocketed area. It's that is being affected. That community should be able to run that company out of there and sue them for everything they're worth.
Well, there can be civil litigation whenever they want. They can have punitive class action lawsuits whenever they want. Um, but yeah, and a lot of those bills are a hodgepodge of something related to what you just discussed and 50 other things.
Right.
And I don't like how that works, but
But the people should be able to vote on that. Like you should be able to vote on what your senator is going to go there and do.
yeah. And that's part of the senators aren't representing what the people want
Mm-hmm.
because they should be. Like when you vote, voting for what you want is voting for the senator that you want, that you think is going to say and do the things that you want. But when they
But I'm saying we're
don't,
past that now. Like wait, like it should be like an order of merit in which my senator speaks for me on issues that are simple, 1 through 9, or 1 through 5. I trust that they're going to be able to talk about roadways, uh I don't know, air traffic over suburban areas, uh things that like I'm probably not as intellectual on. But like if it comes down to sex education in schools, if it comes down to like things that I'm passionate about, then like I would like to get a notification, and then like, which way do you lean on this? Yes, no,
yeah,
short paragraph.
and nothing's stopping us from doing that now. And then the senator can like review that information.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my argument with that would be just like I said, states should be more independent. I think the local level has the biggest impact on what you do. and local level government can affect all of the things that you're talking about. The local government
Yeah.
can decide to allow or not allow certain companies in to do commerce in their districts and all of that stuff. But again, smaller government is more powerful and effective government for you. It
Yeah.
always starts at that level. Your immediate electorate for things in your area should be the most important vote, and it should get less important as you go up to the federal level. The problem is states aren't very independent, and it seems like the hierarchy structure is upside down, where the feds come out with something, and then all the states have to conform because they want to get federal money. And if they don't conform, they won't get the federal money. And so by the time you get to local level, it's like, hey, are we going to add another Dollar General? Like, that's your decision when
Yeah,
it
but the
should be
problem is
more
that
impactful.
capitalism allows people like Pete Ricketts and oh god, what's his name? I can't even remember his name right now.
Pillin?
Helen, they allow people like that to get into office because they have more money to run than you and I.
Yeah. I mean, they have more money to advertise for sure.
Which is like 99.9%. Like you can have a good speech, you can go door to door.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think that's less prevalent definitely at the federal level. That's the case. Local though, I mean, you see it all the time that local people get elected that have no money, and that happens quite frequently. I
Right.
mean, Osborne did pretty well in the elections, and that dude was like a mechanic. And the senator for Pennsylvania, same thing. It's just a dude, you know. AOC, another terrible example, but there's a
I'd have
lot
to
of
look at
cases.
Tom Osborne. Tom Osborne got backing though, like towards the end. Like he got
Right,
like Democratic backing,
right.
even though
But
he was
that's
running
an
as an
example.
independent.
Yeah, yeah. But that's not necessarily like capitalism's doing. I would actually argue the opposite. I think that this almost socialism aspect, or like authoritarian aspect, is to blame, because if states are bound to do what the federal government says because of federal funding, I think that's more of a non-capitalism issue. I think that's more of a socialism issue, and distribution of funds based on whether or not you support the state. Like it'd be the
Yeah,
same
but
thing as like China with a social credit score. It's like, oh, you support us, we're going to give you more benefits than someone who doesn't support what we think.
sure. But do you think that's what got the governor elected, like federal backing?
The governor elected federal backing. No, I think that's this. I think it's the same, because the federal government is going to back and give benefits to people that support them. But I don't think that's a capitalism issue. Again, I think that's an upside down government where the federal government has way too much power, where it should be flip flop so that it starts at local and works its way up, getting weaker and weaker. But because we don't follow that, that's the issue that we have, is that they back the people who are going to support them
I mean, no matter what though, the richest person's going to be able to run the best campaign. Like we'll just call it 9 times out of 10.
at the top level. I agree.
I mean, like what's the top, like the governor?
No, I'm talking more federal level.
Okay. I think that I mean I still think at a local level like money talks, right? Like what you can offer people either resource wise or your financial advertising or the finances you spend towards advertising is I mean it's going to get you the furthest. Like Like
Yeah.
if I ran, I wouldn't make it very far. I would be out there painting signs on not plywood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. Like, I just don't want to discount the fact that we have a rich history of people getting elected at lower levels with nothing. Like, I don't want to discount that. Um,
I think that I mean we've both agreed previously on like I want things to be at the state level, but I want things to be at a smaller level too. I want to see like pocket communities to include like tiny home villages and like a little micro pockets of like socialism, communism, and like other like theories that we could I see how I said theory when I said communism. But like other systems that we could test out. You know, like it should be on them at that level to test that out.
but you can. Like, my county is a
Yeah,
prime
we could.
example. Well, but I'm saying it's already available. Because, like, my county is a prime example. The people in my county that we elect for county supervisors are very conservative, but I would say on the libertarian side. Like, they agree in civil liberties and stuff like that, but there's a lot of things that they're just like Republican on, which I disagree with. But like, our county doesn't have any rules. If you want to go out into the county and catch your own rainwater and run off solar and live in a tiny house or build a whole community that's all tiny houses, they don't care. They don't even care how you build your house. There's no leash laws for animals, like a bunch of stuff, right? But the people that run for electorates or election stuff are primarily groupthink people, especially in a city level. If you have a populace that's like over 20,000, the people that run for those positions are normally like HOA cucks that like want power, and they are
Uh,
groupthink, and like, your lawn can't be this long, blah blah blah, we're going to fine you for all this other stuff. That's why I don't want to live in the city. Like, even the difference between my county and the county seat for my county is so vastly different. You wouldn't think that you're even in the same place. Like, how my county supervisors handle things compared to the city. The city is, and again, things about higher populous regions. We have a lot more groupthink liberals. We have a lot more crime. Our taxes are out of control. And the rules and regulations that we have on our own property are out of control. And then you go 4 miles outside of the city, and it's like you're in a haven for libertarianism. It's weird. But that's why I don't like living in the city, man. I don't want my tax money going towards things that I don't agree with. Um, and I could go down the list of why it's better to not live in the city.
right. I guess what I'm advocating for is like a smaller community, like particularly
A village.
like a village, yeah. Um in which like they can pool their money together. Like I think insurance is a scam, but like if insurance is necessary, then they could pool at their own level. Uh you know, the meetings and stuff like that can happen local, in which like anyone could partake, you know, and be involved in to tell you like where your insurance money is going, or like, hey, we've met a net balance of X amount. We don't need to pay an insurance anymore, right? Bar something happens and we need to rebuild Fred's house because it burnt down, then like we pay back into insurance as a community until we build that back up
Yeah.
and
I
like
mean, you're
call it again.
describing an HOA, though.
No, HOA is not going to rebuild my fucking house.
If that's in the contract, an HOA can put whatever the hell they want in the contract. If people sign it when they move in and buy the land and build the house, it's all there, man.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, like, no HOA is gonna do that. Like,
Well, I don't think anyone's going to buy land and build a house on a place where the HOA has that much power.
right. Well, I don't think that. I guess that's the confusing part. Like, yeah, HOA, sure, HOA community, whatever. I mean, synonymous, but like usually an HOA is like predetermined. Like there's like three people that like dictate all the rules. That's what gives the bad stigma of an HOA.
That are
I'm
elected.
talking about a system of people who all contribute, not not like an elected three people, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, an HOA could not hold an election vote and just do popular vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they could do that. Again, it's just what happens is if you anytime you get into a group, there is a balance where your power is lesser than the group. As soon as you're in a group, your say is lesser than the group in any instance.
Right.
Um, so if you form an HOA, and let's say there's 100 people that live in this community that you're discussing, and it's popular vote, there's no elected positions, and then all of a sudden you've been living there for 10 years, and a bunch of people move out, and 51 people move in, and then your vote literally never matters again. That's living proof that your power is always going to be lesser than the groupthink mentality. And if the groupthink mentality is mostly attributed to power hungry, bureaucratic shitheads, every time you'll lose, inevitably. All you need is time and you'll lose.
Mm, I think it would depend with like the either ranked choice or popular vote because I think that a lot of these social politics that happened recently wouldn't have happened if we had a better system to for people to voice their opinions the right way.
Well, should there have been a
But
vote anyway is the bigger question. Like these political things that have happened, should it even have been a federal level decision anyway? You know, you'd have to give an
well, no, that's what I'm
example of
saying.
what
It
has
should be a
happened.
community level decision.
Yeah,
Oh, I assume that's the school calling to cancel for the blizzard tomorrow.
I still haven't gotten one. They canceled at 1 today for us. They're like, come
But
pick up your
yeah, I mean,
kids.
I advocate for like micro communism,
Well, yeah,
like
inevitably
communism at a village level.
you should be able to do that. If
Yeah.
everything was low level and not high federal level and groupthink, anything should be able to be tested so long as it doesn't detract from anybody's, life, liberty, and all of that.
I would just like to see, yeah, I would like to see things ran at that level because I think that essentially, like, if you can vote, um, and if you don't like your community, then like I mean, just like any other community, like you can uproot, like you can find other communities with like similar aspects like to your values. It's just like
Yeah,
people leave Nebraska all the time because it's too far right or whatever, or they leave Omaha because it's too far left.
right. Well, I mean, that's a prime example, though, of power at the local level. Pete Ricketts is super anti marijuana, but guess what's been on the ballot every year? And look what passed this year. It's like he
Yeah.
doesn't want that, but he doesn't have the power to do anything about it because there was a vote. So state level works better. Like you do have more of a say in the local and the state level. And 90% of what's going through the federal government isn't the federal government's responsibility to begin with.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I believe power should be at the state level. I just think that the system isn't good at the state level. I think it's too archaic. Like I don't even I think it's Carol Blood is my senator, and like I think she sucks, but B, like I don't think that she speaks for the community here. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
like I've
well,
never
who's
seen
voting
any
for her?
sort of local polling that should feed her opinion.
Who voted for her then?
At Bellevue. I don't know.
Obviously, the majority,
Yeah.
right? So you are powerless because you're in that group, and she's not representing you.
I mean, but she also could have been the only choice on the ballot. You know what I mean? There's things as simple as uh people like a name more and they'll vote for
Yeah,
Don Bacon.
yeah. But I mean, anybody's name can be on the ballot if they don't drop out.
I mean, yeah, sure. I'm just saying that like people are like very people are weird, man, when it comes to stuff like this. Like people will not vote for people that they think are ugly. People will not vote for people that they think are not tall enough. You know, black, white, Hispanic, Asian.
Well,
Like
I think it's
there's a
even
lot of
worse.
biases
Yeah,
when it
I
comes
think
to
it's even
voting.
worse than that. I think most of the voters have no clue what they're voting for. I don't think they could tell you if they're black, white, short, tall, whatever. I think they're just voting because it's on the list and people vote for the incumbent. So it again, this is my point. It's either low education or groupthink. That's the biggest voting categories in our country at every level is ineptitude and groupthink. You hear one thing, hey, don't vote for this guy because he's a piece of shit. And then all their friends tell each other that, and then they don't vote. Like my old lady's a prime example of that. She was both of those. She had no, she, she voted for the first time this year or last
And
year.
there's
She
nothing
knew,
wrong with that.
I
Yeah.
know, but she knew nothing about it. And she said if she voted, she was going, and she believed what her group of people would say. And they were all very left, very anti everything. Like, and I did not try pushing her anyway. Like, she would ask about things, and I'll be like, well, read this. This is what happened, or whatever. Read multiple sources. Go through the whole list of whatever you want to know about it. And I'd give her both sides of point of views on things. And instantaneously, that bar started moving from extremist to central. And I think she's landing somewhere, I would say more center than right, but central right. Just from her own knowledge of being able to look into things. But the fact of the matter is that she is a perfect example of the majority of the voting populace not knowing anything or just voting for whatever the people that you hang out with are voting for.
Yeah. I mean, and people vote for the name that was on that won last year as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, because they always put the incumbent on there. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't remember anything bad happening to me.
Yeah.
Check mark. But you're a prime example of why that doesn't work. If your person is not representing you, it's either A, the populace is outvoting you, so your voice is not heard. Well, I guess both of them are that way. Or two, it's groupthink, and groupthink does not work.
I mean, I still think I think it's the system. I mean, I'm close enough to an air base. I'm close enough to farmland. Like I think, and I mean, a lot of Sarpy and a lot of Saunders and all this stuff is like that's all that's all farmland. So I still think it's just the archaic system. Yeah, she probably she got voted for. I mean she won. So at least I assume she won. Fuck, I didn't even see if she's still around. But when she did win, I mean people voted for her. And so I'm just curious even if even if she won based off of her principles, right? That like what few principles that she's carried into the election, does she have the right as an elected official to speak for that entire community on every single position though? My community believes in abortion. My community believes in, pro choice. Like, no. I don't think. I think that like I think that elected officials are dog shit, and it's a shit system.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a prime example that you brought up though, is that situation that you're talking about. That would be the majority populist vote. So like either way, you would lose in that situation for that specific problem.
Right, but we don't know the majority vote. We just know that Carol Blood got elected, or whatever individual. I don't want to specifically pick on her. I don't know
You
her
don't think it's
values.
safe to say that if they did a popular vote on abortion, that it wouldn't pass?
I think that if the world did a popular vote on abortion,
I'm
that
saying the
we would
United
all be
States.
pretty surprised. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'd be pretty surprised because I think if it was a global population vote, abortion would not be legal.
Do you
For
think it
sure.
would be if it was the U.S.?
I think it would be if it was the U.S. popular vote. Yes.
I think, I mean, there's majority males, and males typically somehow seem to carry the idea of,
But if that was a
I don't
popular
know.
vote, you would see women come out in droves, and they are the majority of voters. It'd be donezo from the beginning.
I mean, maybe. But then, like, again, that doesn't affect me. Like,
Well,
I didn't get aborted.
yeah.
Gang, gang.
I mean, if you wanted to make abortion legal, but males could opt out of parental rights without the recourse of uh, child support, I don't think it would be that big of a argument.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I can see
if
that.
women can opt out of motherhood, then men can opt out of parenthood as well. You know,
I
my
just
body, my
abort my
choice.
responsibility.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
women can get an abortion without the man's approval, and they can choose not to get an abortion and hit him with child support. So, if we want to talk about rights, you have to talk about both sides of the aisle on the rights.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I've always thought that like those systems were often unfair. Um, and quite honestly, I have no opinion on abortion. Like, I don't give a fuck.
I'm glad it's a
Uh,
state thing now because that should have never been a federal thing.
yeah,
All these people complaining that Trump took away abortion rights is hilarious to me to listen to because the federal government should have never had their hands in any of that.
I think the FDA should be a federal thing, or should stay a federal thing. I think the federal should dictate to the states what they're not allowed to put in their food, like microplastics, whatever else.
I think that at the federal level, it should exist for. Yeah, I mean, I think they should come out and say you should not put this in your food and blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
I think it's almost a non-argument for like most people. Like the federal is supposed to exist to serve the people, and banning microplastics, for example, would be in support of the people. Like that would be hard to refute. And same thing with like red 40, cancer causing agents, neonic
Yeah,
pesticides.
I think it would make more sense that I don't know if I am 100% in agreement, and this is the libertarian in me coming out. I don't think that they should be able to ban things, but if they wanted to say, in order to have commerce of this product, you have to put a label on this that says not edible or, not for human consumption if it has any of those things in it. I don't think that anything should be like outright banned by the federal government, but if you want to put people on notice, like, hey, this is we don't consider this edible. We're the FDA, we decide what we consider edible or not, and we do not think that this is edible because it contains XYZ.
I mean, they essentially do that anyway with like being FDA approved. But
Yeah, but FDA approval doesn't mean shit right now. That's the thing. FDA approves shit that shouldn't be approved, which all the people that are against, Bobby Kennedy, it's like, I think that's more likely to happen now. Is he's going to put it out there like this should not be considered food. Um, if you want to put a box on a shelf, then you can put it somewhere where it's not in the food aisle. You have a box of macaroni and cheese, but it includes red dye, whatever, microplastics, whatever, all this stuff. It's like, yeah, if you want to sell it, go ahead, but you're going to have to put it over here. And it's not in a food aisle. And it says on it, not for human consumption. But if people want to buy shit and kill themselves, that's up to them. That's their right to do.
uh, I disagree.
Yeah. And I understand that. Most people disagree with that. But that's part of being civil liberties. If I want
I think they would like to think.
Yeah,
Like I think.
if I want to ride my motorcycle without a helmet, I've increased the likelihood of my death, but that's my decision. And me not wearing a helmet isn't taking away the rights of someone else. Same with seatbelts. Same with if I want to shoot heroin, as long as I'm not committing a crime against someone else's civil liberties. If I decide to kill myself by injecting myself with poison, that's Darwinism, baby.
Killing yourself's illegal.
Well, not in most countries, but
No, yeah, I guess we would massively differ there. I think that helmet laws are important. I absolutely shun Nebraska for swapping over. Um, like I think that there's a large amount of people that are not. I don't know. I would just say smart enough. I don't think they're smart enough to take their
correct.
own. I mean, look at the obesity ratings. That's why. And McDonald's, uh, and everything else. Like, yeah, I think there's a large amount of people that don't take their own health into consideration. And
Yeah, but in the same note, these people are fucking mentally incompetent, but
and they're voting.
that's a vote. Yeah. So it's like if they're voters, man, it's the law. Now, if you want, I think that children are a protected entity, right? You can't shoot drugs in your home when you're alone with your kids because that's taking away the child's civil liberties. And if you are in a car and you don't make the kid buckle up and you're responsible for them, you are liable for what happens to them.
What if the kid is riding a bike without a helmet? Are you
The
responsible for that?
parent, yeah, the parent is liable for your children. You're a parent is the one responsible for protecting a child
Right.
legally.
But I'm saying, is there anything to be done to a parent if the kid rides a bike and wrecks without a helmet?
I mean, if you prove that there's wanton disregard for the health of your child, yes, 100%. That happens quite frequently. It'd be the same thing if I hopped on a motorcycle with my daughter. I would make her wear a helmet all the time, right? Because it's my responsibility to keep her safe.
But that's
If
I'm saying that's you on the motorcycle, not the child riding
right, but
their own.
that's my point is if you want to make regulations for the children as far as some of that stuff, yes. But you have to be careful because that's a slippery slope. Um, but if you're not taking away the civil liberties of another person, it should not be a crime. First of all, like if you're not taking someone's property or their God given amendments or civil liberties, then that's on you. That's just your decision. And the one instance that I can give you an example of, because society can also be a victim, right? So, like, driving drunk is a prime example of something where, yeah, you're driving drunk, but you're not taking away anyone's civil liberties, but you're increasing the potential tenfold of taking away someone's civil liberties. Because if you drink and drive and you're intoxicated, yes, that's your choice, but your likelihood to take away someone else's life is increased exponentially. So you can create a law to prohibit drinking and driving. I think that's a prime example of something that works.
I think that that extends over to motorcycles, though. If you ride a motorcycle, you are heavily increasing the chance of someone having to scoop you off the side of the road and then me pay for that whenever the ambulance or insurance, so me pay for that and the kid.
I'd say I would argue the exact opposite, because you not wearing that helmet did not take away any civil liberties from anyone else except for your own. And I think that's a great example. How you just framed it, I feel, proves my point. Is one, someone else's civil liberties are at risk. And on the other hand, if I don't wear a helmet, I'm more likely to die in a wreck. And that's
Right,
your
but that's
decision.
what I'm saying. You've put yourself at risk, and so now, like, we essentially someone has to scoop you off the side of the road, and I have to pay for that.
Well, at fault is at fault, regardless if someone dies or not. If
Right.
you're the driver of a car and the accident is your fault, you're liable for that. Yeah, 100%.
No, I just mean like period. Like if you low side a bike, slide 100 feet, and then hit your face onto a wall, like collectively as a society, we end up paying for that.
Well, I will remind you that it's much cheaper to deal with a dead person than an alive person. And I can tell you that firsthand. If you think that there's countries where people will just run you over and then back over you again because they'd rather you die than pay for the bills.
What country?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them.
I
Um,
I'm trying to move there.
yeah, no, but like, yeah, if you don't wear a helmet and you die on an accident, uh, if you're at fault, yeah, like you're liable either way. If you're not at fault, you're not paying for anything. I don't know what you're talking. Like, if they pull out in front of you and you smack them, you're not paying for them to get scooped off the side of the road. I have no instance where I've seen that. Um, so no, I mean, I would disagree with that.
So if a person dies, who pays for the ambulance?
If a person dies, who pays for the ambulance? In what
Or
fault?
like, or who pays
Whose
for
fault?
the ambulance that showed up, the cops that showed up, like the obviously the public servants' salaries. Like we can go all the way down the list. The fire marshal or fire truck, everything else that showed up.
Is there fault in
Uh,
the accident, or are you just asking in general?
I'm just asking in general. Like
Well,
if you wrecked your bike by yourself and died,
yeah.
then who's paying for the ambulance that showed up?
So ambulance that shows up is going to come out of either write off your life insurance policy, or the bill will be sent to your family,
Right.
right? Or whatever your legal entity is. If you're married, you and your wife are one person as far as the law is concerned for taxes. But yeah, no, it's police. On the other hand, police don't charge, right? That service is taxpayer funded regardless of the workload. Like, the city or my county doesn't have to pay more if a deputy gets sent to an accident. They get an annual salary and it's cut rate. But yeah, ambulances are 100% for profit and they charge whatever. Hospitals, 100% for profit, they charge whatever, but they get to write it off. And then here's the problem: the federal
And they get
government
a grant.
decides, yeah. And I don't agree with that. But no,
Well, that's
you
what I was
as
getting at. Is like they're going to get a grant, and it's going to be paid by the federal taxpayers, and then a cop shows up. He does an investigation that takes him, I don't know, depending on the accident, but
yeah,
let's say 3 to 4 hours
yeah,
usually. and so we paid his salary as well for that. And on an order of merit, yes, he was going to be on that day no matter what. But like now he is on specifically for that occasion caused by a person who chose to ride a motorcycle without a helmet versus, I don't know, going to the school that day because little Timmy said he was going to bring a gun. I don't know, something else. You know what I'm saying? Like they get pulled away from another
Yeah.
merit item.
Oh, yeah. I can back you on that 100%. The only thing I will say that I differ on is the amount of time does not change whether you die or not. Like it, I will argue 9 times out of 10, and probably more often than even 9 times out of 10, on average, uh, if you died, it's going to be less resources.
Right.
So the argument of not wearing a helmet and dying, I don't think at all correlates with an increased usage in resources. Because a dead person being taken to the hospital is not getting operated on and all this stuff. The ambulance probably won't even transport them. Um, it's when you're alive that all of that stuff comes into play. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I stand by my statement with the helmet law because there's not an instance where you have done anything to anybody else. Like you have not taken away anyone else's civil liberties. So,
I kind of want to call like an insurance company on here and just to see if they'll cover me. And I'll tell them like, hey, I want to be insured to ride a motorcycle. I have a license, but like I don't want to wear a helmet. Like, I don't plan to wear a helmet, and then just see what they say.
I I would almost guarantee the answer to that would be yes. I mean,
That they
Nebraska
would
sells
insure me.
motorcycle insurance. Yeah, I mean, it's the law. You don't have to wear a helmet. They're insuring people now that they know don't wear helmets. And again, an insurance company is going to take the $100,000 death benefit for when you die. They would rather pay that than a $400,000 medical bill. You
I just
can't tell me that
wonder.
you don't agree with that.
I wonder if they like know that the people aren't wearing a helmet. Like if they ask, and then most people are
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna wear a helmet. Yeah, okay, sure.
Oh, I'm sure that a lot of insurance companies have that question on there, especially now. But again, they also ask you how many miles you drive a year, and you can put whatever the fuck you want on that. And if they don't follow
30.
up with it, you know,
Yeah,
the insurance company that I worked for, we would call every 2 years and get their odometer reading. But again, they can just tell us whatever. But there's a discount for 10,000 miles and under, and we would check. But a lot of places don't. You can say under, like, USAA doesn't ask for odometer readings. You
yeah.
tell them how much you drive a year, and they've never asked me once what my odometer reading is. I actually drive less than 7,000 miles a year though, because I don't use my car for anything.
I do not. I drive 50 miles twice a day.
Yeah. Well, we can leave it at that for now. I'm down to give you my review of Avowed on the next one, or we could even talk about it in a separate video if we really wanted to. So,
Yeah, I'm curious. I watched all the comparison videos to Oblivion and Skyrim.
yeah. All right, I'm getting the look. So, exit us. Yeah.
Just like,
Destroy your webcam.
just yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching. See you next time.